line printing, and meaning that they can print the finest detail and the finest lines superior to anybody else. So that's one reason. And it has a lot to do with their competitive processes and their, their intellectual processes that they have. They spend an inordinate amount of money on the process. They don't do it cheap. They're printing, the vast majority of quilting cottons are printed using a process called automated flat screen printing. And that is not too dissimilar if you've ever made a silkscreen print yourself or seen someone do it, where you're taking a squeegee and pulling it across a screen. That's the process that the majority of quilting cotton is used. And it's not the fastest way to print cotton, and it's not the cheapest, but it's the best because of the control it gives you. So they're willing to take this slightly slower process that allows them to make a superior product.
And so these fabrics that are from Japan, the quality is better? Are they more intricate in design often because of the process?
Yes. Well, they're more successful at the intricate designs because other people will print them, but you might see what's called a slight offset where the lines don't exactly line up. But, maybe not everyone can notice those things. But yes, they excel at the fine line printing.
And how does someone like Moda decide which fabric is going to go off to Japan and which aren't?
Yeah, so it's a really great question. I think they do look at design, so if they have a complicated design, I think that factors into their equation. But you'll also see people print very subtle designs or even solids. It just has to do with what what quality they're looking for from that particular product. So like cotton and steel, for instance, they're going after, a quilter who recognizes and seeks out the quality that they're offering. And they're 100% committed to Japan. So they're not vacillating around between whether I'm going to give you a quality quilting cotton or an average quilting cotton. They're saying to their market, I'm 100% dedicated to printing in Japan. And that's part of their story. They promote that as sort of made in Japan. And so the reason is, it's the final hand that you're going to get in this cotton. And that's what you can feel if you go to a quilt store. And that's the other thing that Japan really excels at, the fine line printing and the final hand of the cotton, or the finish, if you will.
So when you quilt,
and so I think if you're looking for,
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, continue. Sorry.
I think I'm rambling on and on,
no,
but if you really want that superior finish to your product, you're going to get it in Japan.
All right. So take us through. Do you only use fabric from Japan in your quilting?
No. But I have a lot of it. Yeah, mostly what I have is
when you go to a quilt
there.
shop, is it something you're looking for to see where it's made?
Yes, definitely now.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
All right, so
yeah.
What I'm trying to understand is, if I'm somebody, so I buy fabric anywhere. I'm kind of not pretty much anywhere. But let's say you're new to this. And you're trying to understand, well, why spend that extra money? Is the Japanese fabric more expensive than others, or is it about the same in a quilt shop?
It depends, but the Moda fabric is very competitive price-wise to any other fabric. So it might, for some lines, it might be, $1 more or something. I'm not really a retail pricing expert, but I'm a consumer, and I buy a lot of fabric. So the Moda is very competitive. But if you're looking at the fabrics that are made by the Japanese manufacturers and basically imported, you are going to pay more. The Koka fabric, Daiwabo, Lushin, Yua, those are going to be, anywhere from $20 to maybe $30 a yard, depending on what you're going to get. So that's going to be considerably more.
Right.
Some of those are woven. Some of them are printed, but they're probably the highest quality that you can buy. But if that aesthetic doesn't appeal to you, or if you're not really interested in that very unique design, it's, it may, the price difference may not be worth it to you. But I think that people who recognize it and are looking for that either unique quality or unique color or unique cotton, they have no problem paying for it.
Interesting.
But those fabrics are not as readily available. They're a little more scarce.
Interesting. So you've got the differential between Japanese fabrics in a quilt shop and non-Japanese fabrics in a quilt shop. Then you got to shop fabric at Joann's or Walmart. What is that cotton fabric like? And how do you feel about that?
I think if it's everybody's different, but if people need to be price conscious, I think Joann's and has some, they have some really great things, and they continue to come up in their quality, and they've continued to seek out designers that'll work with them and bring them unique designs. And so I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Walmart, they have great values, and you can get really good, ribbons and things like that at Walmart. And so I think anywhere people shop that encourages them to sew and quilt, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. It's funny.
I think it's about getting people to sew, not,
Yeah.
It's not, not to force one thing on one person.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I like
not
that.
Everybody can afford, I think not everybody, I'm able to afford certain things, and I feel very, very fortunate about that. And I know that not everyone is. And for some people, it doesn't matter, all it matters is that they're sewing, and that's an important thing.
Yeah. I find I love shop fabric, don't get me wrong. My daughter really loves shop fabric. When I take her with me, we never get out without her buying things. But I also like the freedom of cheap fabric, because I'm often experimenting and doing things I've never done before, and it's very freeing to know that it didn't cost very much. So I can, play a little bit more and be a little bit more like, well, if it doesn't work, I'm just going to, scrap it. So I think there's a place,
exactly,
place for everything. And I'm not super careful. I like to play. So I have found that
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And that's what it's all about. Experimenting and and learning and sewing. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your favorite parts of quilting. So you said you were an oil executive. I imagine that takes a certain kind of brain and a certain kind of intensity. Is quilting that same space, or do you feel like you're using a different part of your brain when you're doing quilting?
No, it's definitely a different part of my brain. I think that's why I did it so long. Yeah. And I'm a real early morning person. And when I was, quilting way back when my kids were younger, I would always get up early because I was always at work early. And so on the weekends, I'd still get up early, and I'd have the house to myself for, 3 hours. And it was always so wonderful, just to be so in your own little zone and do something completely different.
Yeah.
But I think that machine quilting, maybe there is definitely you do have to kind of have an engineering sort of approach, because it's a machine, and you have to sort of conquer the machine to get the results that you want. You can't work your machine and you don't have the sense of mind to maintain it and, do what's needed. You're not going to get where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe there is some sort of process there, although I would never say I was a process oriented person, but to run a machine, you do have to have some stamina and wherewithal.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about teaching and what role teaching plays in your, I want to talk a little bit about teaching, and I want to talk about the book tour. Those are the two kind of next things I want to chat with you about. So
Yes.
teaching and the book tour, are they related, or what role do they play in your quilting life?
Yes, so I am a lecturer.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not teach necessarily. I don't teach workshops or classes, but starting with my first book, it's a great way to get out and talk about your book. And in my previous role, I did a lot of public speaking, so I'm very comfortable speaking. And so I just thought it would be really fun to go out and speak to some of the quilt guilds. And so I reached out to a couple that were, kind of in my area, and I really enjoyed it. And so I go to the guilds and I give a lecture, and I speak for like 40 minutes or 45 minutes about the book and about what I've learned. And I share a slide presentation, and I keep it real lively and, try to make it fun and make it interesting to quilters of all types. Like you don't have to have any knowledge of Japanese or Japan or quilting necessarily. I try to reach people at all levels. And that was so much fun. I ended up doing, a lot of them. And now I'm doing maybe two a month or three a month. So, and I'm traveling more with my new book since I guess people know me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've branched out, so beyond Texas. So I just love it because the guilds are, really talented people, and there are people of all types. And I spoke to a guild in Taos, New Mexico, and it was only 24 people, and they were mostly art quilters and artists, and they asked me questions for 1 hour. I mean, it was just amazing.
That's really
And then
cool.
I've spoken to groups of two, yeah, 200 and 300, and I love talking. It's like being with my people.
Yeah,
It's a great group of people, great thing to do.
that's really
Yeah, so
cool.
they pay me a small honorarium,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't. It's great. And then I sell my books there, and some people buy them, and it's just a really fun thing to do and way to get out and connect with people and tell this story.
And then on the economics, are you paying your own way to go to places and they're giving you a small honorarium, or is the book company helping, or sort of how does the economics of a book tour work?
The publisher does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They sell me books at a discount, not a huge discount, but and then I resell them. But they don't support the book tour financially in any way.
Interesting.
So the guilds pay me. It's like usually around $300
Mm-hmm.
for a speaking fee. If you give a workshop, and that's pretty standard, 250 to 350, 400, whatever for a
Mm-hmm.
lecture.
Mm-hmm.
If you do workshops, they tend to pay you more, but that's not really my speed. And then some of them will offer you mileage reimbursement or a hotel reimbursement. Um, but that's usually the extent of it.
Yeah. So then it looks like
So
you do. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Mhm. I'm lecturing in New York next
Uh-huh.
week, or actually next month. I mean, January 10th.
Uh-huh.
And, I'm paying my own way there,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But they are helping me with one night hotel and paying me the honorarium.
That's
So
great.
it's not it's a fun thing to do. It's not a for profit thing.
Right. And I see you're going to Northern California, so you're doing a couple of them. You're doing three of them when you're there, so you can kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And and that's going to be over a 2 week period. So my husband and I are going to take vacation, and in between the lectures. That's just the way we kind of do it. And the San Francisco Guild invited me, and I was absolutely thrilled to be invited. And then she offered to get me some other lectures in the area because they have their meetings kind of timed out that way.
That's very cool.
So that was awesome. So I got the other two guilds, Napa and the Peninsula Guild. So I'll do all three of them.
Oh, very cool.
But and I think all of them are offering me one night hotels.
Oh,
So, but
nice.
not airfare or anything like that.
Yeah, but it helps. That every bit helps.
Definitely. Yeah. What's really interesting about all that is, so I am lecturing at QuiltCon
Uh-huh.
in February, which is also in Pasadena, California.
Uh-huh.
and I'm simply thrilled to be invited to speak there. They're real picky, and